Fortunately, we've been able to push back on MAGA Republicans so far. They haven't given up. They still want to undo this progress we're making. They're proposing cuts in investments in roads, bridges, the internet, and the high-speed internet, the very things that provided it's across the board.
Yes, those radical MAGA extremists with paying attention to the $33 trillion debt and the Democrat pork barrel line the pockets of their pals' projects. A lot of peas in that one. MAGA extremist. Then he machine gunned the entire press corps to death. It was kind of weird, I thought.
But good for the planet.
But good for our carbon footprint, and that matters. Speaking of which, the mayor of Washington, D.C., she's in Dubai. In the Middle East. She's checking in on the weather. See how it is there? The climate. There's a climate conference in the mayor of Washington, D.C. Not even a state. It's a district. It's only 61 square miles. She's over there to talk about the climate on my dime, anyway. Extraordinary. While crime runs rampant, which, the Democrats are fine with because it's Democrats that are committing all the crimes. The carjackings, the shootings, the looting, the mayhem. They love mayhem, don't they? Mayhem is one of their things. They're quite fond of mayhem. Well, happy Tuesday to you, and welcome back. There is a war going on in the Middle East, which was not going on when Donald Trump was living in the White House, and there are terrorists running rampant everywhere. Saw this morning, there's smoke rising from the Gaza. What could it be? I was watching this. You watched this morning on television? I said, well, it's fire. How dumb are you people? It's where there's smoke. Anybody? Raise your hand. There's fire. I knew that pretty much right away when I saw the smoke. I said to myself, self, where there's smoke, there's fire. Therefore, I concluded, there's fire over there. And there were more hostages because the terrorists have stolen people. They're hostages, and they release some hostages. And the news media acts like they just invented penicillin or something, like they're the good guys of the story. They're quite amazing, our news media. I've got audio for you today from one reporter from Fox News, Trey Yingst. It's a little bit of a funny name, but he's been doing some good reporting. In fact, his reporting's been getting better, and he's been settling into his reporting there, and he's been doing quite a good job, I think. And I want to share because, when you see good reporting, that should be pointed out, too. It's so rare. It's, like the moon landing at this point. It's extraordinary stuff. But he reporting there were 11 hostages released by the troglodyte terrorists who are murderous, torturing rapists, kidnappers, hostage takers. They're terrorists. They're radical Islamic jihadi terrorists. It's what they do. It's who they are. It's their identity, and they're proud of it. They're very proud of it. In fact, one of the sound bites I want to play is of Trey Yingst last week, audio we pulled of him last week that we didn't play because, got too much stuff every day. But he talked about the difference between embedding with Israeli military forces versus embedding with, the so-called Palestinian hostage takers, murderers, and stuff. And there's, you might imagine the difference is fairly stark. And Trey Yingst laid that out. But 11 hostages released since last week convened. 9 of them are children, some of them little tiny children. And the Democrats think this is great. I played this audio yesterday, a BBC reporter, Katty Kay. She's a reporter. I'm making quotation marks with my fingers. And so good is she that NBC Fake News hired her to be a fake journalist for them, too. And some of the things that she said yesterday, and I played 2 sound bites of her yesterday, I want to play again because it's so fantastically corrupt that they didn't correct it or anything. But I want to play that for you because they're completely nuts. I saw today also that the troglodytes in Gaza are running low on water because their culture is such that they're not capable of providing potable water, drinkable water to their people. They have to depend on who, Michael? The Jews, the Israelis, to provide them with clean water. Otherwise, it's dirty water for them because, not every culture is equal. Amazing stuff. I'd turn off the electricity on them, too. Just, sorry, we provide the electricity. Now you don't have any electricity. This is how this is going to go. Yeah, and they're holding, a 9-month-old baby that they kidnapped, now a 10-month-old baby that they're holding hostage because, it's like Kids Day. And that's one of the things that they said, they love the children so much, but they can't feed the hostages because they're on hard times. And we're supposed to feel bad for the terrorists, the hostage takers. This is our news media. Filthy, filthy, filthy. Joe Biden is, of course, angry with himself. He's very angry. He's Marvin the Martian with himself. He's very, very angry because he doubted the data that was being put out by Hamas. And the news media all takes the data that's put out by Hamas. How many, the Israelis are only killing children in the Gaza. Only children have died. 6 million of them, and it's worse than the Holocaust. And the news media faithfully reproduces whatever it is the terrorist hostage takers tell them because our news media is not a good news media. I think it's fair to say. Oh, speaking of which, we got terrorists, radical Islamic jihadi terrorists over there. And we've got commies over there. We got a lot of commies in the United States. They call themselves liberals in many cases, but commies, we know that they're commies. And the commies, they're historically worse than the Islamists. They murdered more people than the Islamists, the commies, by a factor of 100 or more. And they're a murderous lot. And of course, they're famous for taking prisoners, political prisoners, the Gulag Archipelago, which the Soviet Union created in the name of socialist revolution. And they put millions of people in slave labor camps, brutalized them in many cases till they died in the slave labor camp because communism is not good. And, Vladimir Lenin said the goal of socialism is communism because he knew a thing or two about it. And it turns out now Vlad the Impaler Putin, who's a communist and a former KGB guy, although you remember the New York Times called him a right-winger. You remember that? Because they're at war with, it's kind of a cold civil war going on in the United States. And the filthies at the New York Times and in the news media, they are, they're not journalists. They're not journalists at all, are they? But now Putin is holding this American hostage, the Wall Street Journal reporter, on trumped-up charges, threw him in jail. And we learned overnight that Putin is extending, Gershkovich is his name. I would always have said Gershkovich, but they're emphasized the Gershkovich. That's the way they say it, apparently, the family. So I'll go with what the family wants. But they're holding him hostage, and they just announced yesterday that they're going to hold him for longer. What is it, till the end of January, Michael? They're going to hold him because commies, they use the fake judicial system to target their political enemies, you see. Kind of like January 6th. January 6th, they love January 6th, and there are still people in jail. A guy who wasn't even there got 22 years in prison. He was in Baltimore because the Democrats used the judicial system, the left, the communists, the socialists, the Bolsheviks, used the judicial system to target and imprison their political enemies. The Democrats are going to need their own Gulag Archipelago before they're done. And, of course, targeting President Trump with these radical left-wing prosecutors, George Soros bootlickers who target the political enemies of the Democrat Party and try to put, 91 felony charges in 4 different jurisdictions. And that's because they're the left. They're the left, And now I bring this up because Putin and the Democrats are doing a pretty good impersonation of Putin here in the United States. Evan Gershkovich is being held they're extending his fake imprisonment. It's a real imprisonment, but on fake charges. He's not an espionager. He's a news reporter. But truth is not their bag, if you know what I'm talking about. So the American Evan Gershkovich is being held hostage by the communists, Vlad the Impaler Putin in Russia on trumped-up charges, abusing the legal system that he owns to imprison political enemies in America because it's a hostage, and then he'll extract some actual Russian criminals in the United States will be freed by Joe Biden, and Joe Biden will probably give him billions of dollars too, like he did with Iran. And, it's a dicey world out there, and that's why America needs to be strong and why America needs a strong leader who understands the difference between right and wrong, just to offer one example of what a president should know. But no, we've got Joe Biden who's angry with himself for doubting Hamas's numbers because he's not a bright man. He's not a smart man at all, is he? No, he's not. And also we got lots of crazy going on here in the United States because Democrats. Also, I want to get to the did you see the lynchings in the Gaza? There were lynchings where they mob violence attacked a couple of men and murdered them violently and then hanged them upside down for the crowd to attack. And hanging them up by their ankles, by their feet. And then the crowd attacked them more because now who were they that they hanged? Well, when they don't have any Jews around, and they don't, they attack their own people. So it's two Palestinian men that they accused of being squealers to the Israelis, and snitches get stitches and then they get lynched. So there was this lynching of two men, very public lynching, mob violence. The left loves mob violence here in the United States, don't they, Michael? Yes, they do. They're very big. It's one of their areas is a lot of mob violence, mob street violence, political violence, coast to coast, looting, arson, all the left-wing stuff. And I want to play the audio of that, of the crowd going wild while these two men are lynched and their dead bodies are hanged upside down, and then they attacked them more. And the news media ignores it. The entirety of our news media, the New York Times and CNN and the Washington Post and the rest of them, they're like, if I asked them about it, they'd say, what are you talking about? I didn't see that. Because, as I've pointed out many times, they don't follow the news. They follow each other. So we got that, and just scratching the surface. Yeah, because our news media does not scratch the surface, and also the media is very concerned about Joe Biden, not because he's brain dead. They're fine with that, but because they think that he might lose next year to Donald Trump, and then they would launch a civil war. They'd fire on Fort Sumter, and they'd loot every business in America. The left-wingers at Vox with the headline, "Is Biden doomed in 2024?" Oh, the headline only says doomed once. I just said it twice for emphasis. Is Biden doomed in 2024? 3 theories about the president's bad polls. There are 3 bad theories, too, because they're left-wingers. And also, this radical left-winger fake reporter at the White House named April Ryan. April Ryan. She's with a black media outlet called The Grio. It's called The Grio. And she went to town in the White House briefing yesterday about how Joe Biden should be meeting with Stevie Wonder. She had no actual explanation for why that would benefit anyone, but she's a ridiculous person. In fact, Michael and I were talking about it this morning. You see, April Ryan has a new hairdo, and it is eerily similar to Donald Trump's hair, isn't it? I think she has some kind of a subliminal obsession with Donald Trump, like all left-wing radical fake reporters in Washington, D.C., but she's taken it a step further than most. She's gotten a complete hairdo, and now it's like yellow hair, right? And it's wavy and kind of fascinating. We'll get into that. And I've got an update for you out on Christmas at the White House. Do you remember last year when they hanged the Christmas stockings in front of the fireplace at the White House for all the grandkids? Remember that? That is to say, all except one of them, the unacknowledged bastard child of Hunter Biden and the stripper, Hunter the crackhead. And, well, they've updated that this year, and now everything is even Steven. They've leveled the playing field, and all the grandchildren are being treated equally this year at the White House. I will explain. Kind of fascinating. And Boy, the Democrats, how much stuff did they give us today, Michael? A lot of stuff. You hear about the carjacking here, kind of close to the radio station, the carjacking. Man pistol whipped by the carjacker, who was a Democrat, according to the police. And they're still looking for him. But he pistol whipped a man just minding his own business in his car. And then, interestingly, the carjacking was thwarted. As we shatter all our records for carjackings in Washington, D.C., and the mayor of Washington, D.C. is in Dubai. You know what she's doing? Drumming up, talking about the weather, because the climate is real kooky, and the Democrats are in charge of it. And she's trying to drum up tourism for Washington, D.C. I have a couple of business owners that want to tell you a thing or two about that. We are at 888-630-9625. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit chrisplantcruise.com. All right. Joe Biden's not going to the climate summit in Dubai, but the mayor of Washington, D.C. is, because, our 61 square miles, we can do a lot to change the climate of the planet Earth. Maybe by cutting down on gunfire. That'd be a good tip. All that gunpowder in the air, not good for the environment. We should make that argument. They might actually buy that. That's how smart they are. Let's grab a phone call before I get back to the Biden family Christmas and all that. Let's go to Hack, calling from Bethesda, Maryland. Hack, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, good morning, Chris, and good morning to your faithful audience.
Thank you.
Mayor Bowser is over in Dubai. Why is she going to go all the way there to talk about the weather? Doesn't Joe Biden just pop in on dinners and talk to the weather to the people?
He does. He loves to talk about the weather. The Democrats have bestowed upon themselves, they have gifted themselves the power of a god. Roman emperors never laid claim to the power to control the climate of the planet Earth. Although, there were, what do you call them, natives in the United States and in Mexico and in South America that sacrificed children all over the place in an effort to change the weather. And we think that's gruesome and stuff. But now they fund Planned Parenthood and they talk about changing the climate.
So as far as with the tourism, maybe she should get some slogan going. Visit D.C., come for the museum, stay for the assaults, or maybe memories that you'll remember the rest of your life.
Yeah. Memories of Washington are like wounds. They take a long time to heal. Honestly, we broke the record. We've surpassed 900 carjackings in Washington, D.C. Again, 61 square miles, fewer than 800,000 people, 900 carjackings. There is a climate summit. That is funny all by itself. People are having a summit about the climate, and we have political leaders that say they're going to take away a bunch of stuff and make other stuff more expensive, and then the climate will be better. And if you believe them, you're definitely a Democrat. No, it's CO2. It's science. I've seen it. There's a white paper, which is racist. The left-wing Axios. Biden to miss COP28 climate summit start in Dubai. They call it COP, C-O-P. It's the one COP they like. COP28. And the headline here is that Biden's going to miss the beginning of it. He's going to miss the middle of it, and he's going to miss the end of it, too, because he's not going. The Guardian, Joe Biden will not attend the COP28 climate meeting in Dubai. U.S. official says. You should probably get a second source on that. You just have one anonymous official. Everything is anonymous. Our news media should be anonymous. They shouldn't even put their names on the stories. The TV reporters should wear hoods, like the KKK or Hamas or Black September, something like that. If all their sources are going to be anonymous, they might as well be anonymous too. And France 24, Joe Biden will not attend COP28 climate summit, says U.S. official. I wonder if they got the same anonymous U.S. official. What do you think? It's hard to say. But there it is. But that doesn't matter because the mayor of Washington, D.C., who's a radical left-wing Democrat extremist who doesn't care about children being shot and killed all over Washington, D.C. all year long. What do we have? 248 homicides in D.C. so far this year. It's a 30-year high in homicide. Is it 30 years? Or maybe it's only 20 years. Is it 1993 or 2023 that we haven't had this many homicides? For decades, we haven't had this many homicides. But she doesn't care. 20 years. It's a 20-year high in homicides. Michael just checked. Lickety-split, as Chaz Bono likes to say, because of Al Gore's amazing internet. Peace be upon him. He is truly a miraculous person. We are blessed to live in the same time as Al Gore. The corpulent Al Gore. He's the guy that brought us that fake picture of a polar bear on an ice shelf like he's really afraid, like polar bears can't swim, like transgender swimmers. They like transgender swimmers. But never mind that. Now, in the meantime, in Washington, D.C., while DC Mayor travels to Dubai for climate change conference, promote tourism amid spiraling crime. That's the headline at the Fox News Channel. And crime spiraling in our nation's capital. Don't come here. Honestly, stay away. It's too dangerous. And the news media is very excited that the mayor of Washington, D.C. is there to talk climate change. The mayor of Washington, D.C. will have a lot of control over the climate, right? And she can ignore the record spike in murders, highest in 20 years. And this is another great one yesterday. D.C. hits 900 carjackings in 1 year on Thanksgiving Day, up 100% from last year. But pay no attention to that because they're okay with that. You know why? It's their sons and daughters, because they're very enlightened. Their daughters who are like 13-year-old girls with guns carjacking people, and pretty amazing stuff. So Washington, D.C. had a grim milestone, suffering more than 900 carjackings so far this year. This is a 100% higher, the number is, than the same date in 2022. The danger of losing a car to carjacking, armed thugs, they're all Democrats, is compounded by the fact that many of these crimes, 77%, are committed by the thieves using guns, according to WJLA-TV. Out of these 901 carjackings, this was several days ago, by the way, there have been 157 arrests, with 66% of these arrests involving teenage perpetrators, which means you can pretty much guarantee they were let go immediately because Democrats, it's their kids, The problem is not our guns, it's your sons. The problem is not our guns, it's your sons. The city's police report that there have been 238 closures of carjacking cases. That's good because I like closure, don't you, Len? I'm always looking for closure. Not really. That's a silly word used in most cases by silly people. The alarming rise in carjackings, the city council is looking to make new laws to address the issue. I got an idea. If you are engaged in an armed carjacking, which is like hostage taking, a threat to murder people, grand theft, you should get a minimum of 5 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Lickety-split. That would reduce the numbers of carjackings by probably, I'm going to say, 70 to 80%. And then the rest would be perpetrated by incredibly stupid people who want to go to prison. There is another story that broke yesterday afternoon. Man pistol whipped by would-be carjackers, plural, foiled by Porsche with stick shift in Bethesda, police say. This is the greatest anti-carjacking prevention device. It's called a stick shift because nobody under 30, maybe nobody under 40, knows how to work a stick shift. So if you've got a car with a stick shift and you got a Democrat come up with a gun to carjack you, just get out of the car and say it's all yours. And they're going to get in and they're going to grind your gears for a minute, and then they're going to get out of the way and run away because Nobody knows how to work a stick shift. That's just a funny reality. Now, a man in Bethesda, Maryland is recovering after he was pistol whipped by a group of would-be carjackers who were trying to steal his Porsche when they realized they couldn't drive a stick shift, police say. Maybe you should put like 10,000 volts in the stick shift handle, in the shifter. That'd be a good idea. And then we could kill them, and that would be good for humankind. It would be wonderful. Officers were called to the 7200 block of Wisconsin Avenue. What block? We're at the, where are we? Let me see it, like the 5400 block just off of, I think that's, isn't that about right? Because our address doesn't marry up with that, but never mind. So 7200 block of Wisconsin Avenue, around 11:55 p.m. Sunday, that's just before midnight, of course, to report an attempted carjacking. Authorities said the man was in front of a business when he was approached by 3 or 4 individuals who demanded his vehicle's keys at gunpoint. Now, a lot of Porsches only have 2 seats. Every day is an IQ test, and I'm going to wager that your average carjacker is not the brightest person on the block. And they're, getting a public education these days provided by the Democrats, so they don't even know what hemisphere they're in. Investigators say they pistol whipped the man who ran back into the business at just before midnight. The man told police that shots were fired, but investigators say no shell casings were found. Well, it's possible they used a revolver. What do you think? Maybe they picked up, because they were raised not to litter, they could have picked up their spent shell casings. Who can say? Fox 5's Melanie Alnwick says that the carjacking was thwarted when the suspects attempted to flee in the man's Porsche, but were unable to operate the vehicle's manual transmission. Suspects fled the scene in a different vehicle. The victim is recovering from injuries sustained in the assault. A mandatory 5-year minimum in a penitentiary. Let's make it 10 years. Then, that'll discourage. Then once you but then, the prosecutor in DC, who's a radical left-wing extremist, pro-criminal fraud of a prosecutor, he will, and federal, by the way, he's federal, he'll just let them all go, which is what he has a habit of doing, a pattern of doing. Anyone with information is asked to contact investigators. What kind of information do we have? Have you given a description of the 3 or 4 individuals? I noticed yesterday there was that news reports all over the place that a man shot 3 Palestinians in, where was it, Vermont, and the reports were a white man. Now, they weren't even looking for him. He's not on the loose, but he's described again and again as a white man who shot 3 alleged Palestinians. He didn't kill them. They were wounded. And he's under arrest, and he's a white man. But there's no description of the perpetrators here. Why do you think? Be on the lookout for 3 or 4 carjackers with a gun, at least, of some kind, but with no description. No description of the person. 900, and it's 901, and it's probably, this is a yesterday story, so it's probably more than that now. We hit 900 carjackings on Thanksgiving Day because Democrats raise children to be criminals, and then they give them illegal guns, and then they do what criminals will do. Democrats murdered more people in the United States last year than Hamas will kill all year long. That's just a statistical fact. Everyone should be required to take statistics at some point. So, we've got D.C. businesses closed due to challenges with the economy and crime. That's the headline, WUSA. Actually, the headline, because everybody's illiterate now, the headline actually says, D.C. businesses closed due to challenged with economy and crime. They meant to write challenges, but everyone is illiterate. So we got that going. Amazing stuff. Yeah, and DC Mayor Muriel Bowser leaves crime-ridden city to promote tourism at Dubai conference. Just amazing stuff. Now let's go to these 2 DC businessmen, business owners, who are also eager to flee the city, and the businesses are fleeing the city because, Democrats. Let's go to soundbite number 15. DC business owner Adam Kalinsky. Adam Kalinsky was on the Fox News channel this morning in the 5 a.m. hour, and I was watching. Adam Kalinsky, DC business owner, talking about our mayor, the mayor of the nation's capital in the United States of America, going to Dubai to talk about the weather at the climate conference that Joe Biden isn't going to. He doesn't even care about the climate. And to promote tourism because, are there a lot of Hamas leaders in Dubai that could visit Washington, D.C.? Interesting. Let's go to D.C. business owner Adam Kalinsky talking about the ridiculous mayor going to Dubai to talk about the weather and to drum up tourism in Dubai, like the people that come to D.C. in Dubai don't already know to come to D.C. and whether they're coming to D.C. It's a complete charade. She's a joke. Business owner Adam Kalinsky.
As a business leader, you remain laser focused on metrics that matter to you, and clearly the metrics of D.C. don't matter to her, right? I can't imagine what she's over there promoting. Hey, come visit D.C., invest with us. We got high crime. We've got mental health issues. We got broken homes. We've got businesses in free fall. We've got crippling regulatory measures being put in place. I mean, what is there to sell? And clearly she's driven away all the patrons of D.C., and now she's looking abroad to try and bring folks in to spend money in D.C.
You see why I like this guy, right? So I want to buy this guy beers. That's D.C. business owner Adam Kalinsky, and talking about the mayor of Washington, D.C. going to Dubai to drum up tourism in Dubai. Hey, we got high crime, mentally ill people all over the place, complete mayhem, businesses are fleeing. Hey, come to D.C. I'm the mayor. Adam Kalinsky.
I mean, we've had 5 break-ins this year, and it's just back to back to back. And, every time we raise this issue, we get platitudes and rhetoric from her and the council. It's insane just thinking about all the problems we're having. I mean, she's systematically killing businesses in D.C., and she's done nothing to help us. And she's breaking records left and right, and those aren't the records you want to have as a legacy. I don't know where she's headed and what she's doing, but at this point, she needs to resign. She is not good for the city, and there is no success under her.
No success under her. But when you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter because the Washington Post fluffs you. She is a WOC, and I think she's LGBTQIAA, isn't she? I think so. She's a WOC, woman of color. That's Democrats have to abbreviate everything. So everybody's got to have a decoder ring to try to catch up with what they're lying about today. She should resign, and he's great. Another business owner, D.C. business owner, Aaron McGovern, was on as well, talking about why his businesses are going under.
We have a huge population of homeless that need help. We have a ton of mental illness, which goes, side by side with the homeless. But we also have violent criminals that can't be and won't be prosecuted, or that have the businesses don't have the protection of the police because they're restricted because of a really poor and aligned DC government. And it's just sad.
Because they undermine the police, and the police are retiring at a record rate, just like they are in the NYPD. And they don't want to police as a verb so much because the city council and the mayor are looking to hang them, like that lynching in the Gaza the other day. Aaron McGovern, business owner.
We've shut down both our places. We've had an employee was shot and stabbed, thankfully survived. We've had numerous break-ins, and this is just on one side of our town.
An employee shot and stabbed, robbed again and again, break-ins, mentally ill people. It's the zombie apocalypse, homelessness, and the mayor is flying first class off to Dubai to talk about the weather. And I think she should be required to show proof that she drummed up some business, people coming from Dubai to Washington, D.C. to stay at the Four Seasons Hotel in Georgetown and bring their own security details because the Democrats run this place, and you shouldn't I've lived here for more than 30 years. Take my word for it. Don't come to Washington, D.C. Democrats run the place. Therefore, it's unsafe. Well, there's an update on the stick shift carjacking in Bethesda, Maryland, a suburb of Washington, D.C. In Maryland, Montgomery County, left-wing Montgomery County, famously, they call themselves liberals, but they're left-wingers. Bethesda restaurant owner targeted in failed carjacking after being followed from D.C. There's no description still of the perpetrators, the suspects that police are theoretically looking for. He was followed into Bethesda by at least 3 perps from D.C. He was in D.C. in his car. They followed him into Bethesda. No description. It would be racist to provide a description, but it sounds like this could be a hate crime. Miao Mong, M-Y-O-M-A-U-N-G, Miao Mong, who owns Zhao Stamina Ramen, a ramen place, ramen, off of Wisconsin Avenue in downtown Bethesda, told police he was pistol whipped at his restaurant, outside his restaurant. He's the restaurant owner. It's nearly midnight. He's doing business because he works all the time, because he's a hardworking man. Now, let me just say, if these perpetrators are Caucasian, this should be prosecuted as a hate crime. Just a little joke. It's because, it's a Democrat world. We're just living in it. The victim also told Fox Channel 5 that the suspects wanted his phone and password, demanded he hand over his keys. I got shocked, excited. Now I'm okay, Mong said. Guys stealing, the hijacking, it's too much. We're not safe. I feel like that's why people, he said, I just want to say, just be careful. Sounds like a nice man. The police are looking for Democrats in a reddish-colored Nissan SUV. Sure, that's what we're looking for now.